Hey everyone, welcome to It Tastes Different Gaming Appetizers. What's on the news today? Well, S Game Developer, that's the name of the developer, who is making the Phantom Blade Zero, which you've seen a few times. So an anonymous S Game developer recently had come out with a controversial statement about Xbox. They basically said that the anonymous developer said that the Xbox was an unnecessary platform. Basically saying it's not a PlayStation 5 exclusive, so Phantom Blade Zero is not. But the team has received support from PlayStation. The developer skipped Xbox consoles on purpose, stating that nobody likes the platform in Asia. The S Game developer explained that Microsoft's ecosystem is needlessly complicated, so the team has no intention on working on a port. So that is what initially came out, stirred the pot a bit online with some controversy, but then S Game came out and basically said that they noticed that some recent media outlets have claimed that in an interview with an unnamed developer from S Game at ChinaJoy, which we talked about ChinaJoy that just happened not too long ago, who seems to have made statements regarding the release of platforms and strategy for Phantom Blade Zero. We want to clarify that these claim statements do not represent S Game's value or culture, as we believe in making our game accessible to everyone and have not ruled out any other platforms for Phantom Blade Zero. We are hard at work on both the development and publishing fronts to ensure that as many players as possible can enjoy our game at the release and in the future. Our team is looking forward to sharing more development updates soon, and we're excited to bring our world premiere demo at Gamescom this month of August. So the Gamescom is later on this month. So they haven't ruled out. So basically from this, they haven't ruled it out. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's mainly for it's good for S Game to come out and say this, because then it saves face for their company, right? You don't want to say this platform or that platform is bad, or, because you're going to just piss off that portion of the player base, right? Not to say that, there isn't outside of or in Asia that there's a lot of Xbox players, because there's not, right? Xbox has not been big over in Asian countries and stuff, Asia and countries around there. And even in the UK, I don't think Xbox outside of the United States, really, Xbox is not that big of a platform. Microsoft has been trying to make strides in Asian markets, but they still can't seem to catch grasp for it. So, from this unnamed developer, I don't know if Phantom Blade Zero, we don't know if this game's going to be good or not. It looks good, but we don't know if it's going to be good. Will it come to Xbox? I'm guessing probably not. It's probably not going to, but, S Game developer, they don't want to come out and say that, because again, they don't want to piss off the player base that is looking forward to this game and hoping that it'll come to Xbox. And if they do decide to make something in the future for Xbox, let's say, right? What if there's a turn one day or something like that, and they decide they're going to make a game for the Xbox? They don't want to have that bad publicity behind them from their last game, even if that game turns out to be good, because people will bring that up again, right? So it makes sense for them to save face on that, but it did also make sense that I don't know about Xbox being as far as hard to develop on. I don't know. I don't develop games, so I don't know how the difficulty of how Xbox is to develop versus PlayStation. But it does make sense for an Asian developer to not want to publish a game on Xbox, even though it is coming to the US. But for the main fact that that platform, like I said, is not big in outside of the United States, right? Xbox is not. It's never has been. I think the most traction the Xbox has ever had outside of the US was the 360. Beyond that, it's never really gained traction outside of the United States. So, not to say that they don't have people that do buy those consoles outside the US. There is, but it's just not as big as it is here in the US. So I don't know. I don't really begrudge them for, or the anonymous developer for saying that. It's probably mostly true. Or some aspects of it, right, are probably true. But it makes sense for them to come out and be like, nah, that doesn't represent us or whatever, thing like that, because they got to, they're not owned by PlayStation or anything like that. They've got to keep their borders, keep their doors open to other development studios and other platforms and stuff like that. They don't want to alienate themselves or alienate their player base or their fan base down to a certain group, right? They want to remain open to everybody. What do you think about all this, Pat?
I mean, it's not the first time that we've heard that Xbox ecosystem is hard to work with, right? I would like to know what it is. I mean, because to me, it's, from my understanding, and granted, I've not done a lot of digging into their architecture on the Xbox, but I mean, it's pretty close to PC x86 architecture, from my understanding. Especially the new Xbox, right? So is it really that difficult, or is it more of the whole Asian market really isn't adopting Xbox? Xbox is not garnering any goodwill neither, right? They closed down Tango, not too long ago after making a damn good game, Hi-Fi Rush, right? They closed them shortly after that. And I'm like, that's a great way to garner a relationship with the Asian countries.
And that was like their only Asian studio, wasn't it?
It was their only, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, Hi-Fi Rush was critically acclaimed game. So I mean, I don't know. Tango Gameworks closure probably doesn't get any goodwill from the Asian countries out of them. Based out of Tokyo, I think is where they were. So, Xbox kind of digs their own grave sometimes with the crap they do and things like this. But I would like to know. I wish I knew somebody that actually did game development for PlayStation, Xbox, and be like, why do you claim that Xbox is difficult to work with if it really is compared to PlayStation, Sony? Is it because maybe Sony more caters to these Asian developers to kind of give them sweetheart deals to entice them to make the game on their console? Or maybe they give them, maybe it's a cultural thing where, I try to look at it like this. Maybe PlayStation has more of a white glove service when it comes to developing on their platform than like Xbox does, right? Xbox may have a self-service type philosophy, whereas like Sony, which I don't know, none of this stuff is known to me because I've never done it, has, like I said, a more white glove. They have an onboarding process, whereas Xbox just says, here's our page of how to develop on our console. Have at it. If you want help, you pay us to consult you, right? Maybe that's how they do it. I don't know. I've never developed a game on either one of the consoles, so I don't know how that works. But I've heard multiple times that the Xbox ecosystem is difficult to work within for development. And like I said, I would like to know. I dug and never could get specifics. So a lot of it seems to me as an outsider is like, he said, she said bullshit, like, we don't like them, so we're going to say they're hard to work with, right? That's what you always say. That's what people always say when they don't want to work with somebody. They're difficult to work with. Well, what things are they doing to make it difficult for you as a developer to develop? Because that's what I would like. I'd like a list. I'm sure Microsoft would like a list too, so they could say, you don't want to work with us for what reasons? Name them off, and we will work to improve those reasons, right? Because what company doesn't want more money? And if you're going around saying that they're bad to work with, what's bad about to work with them? Is it what aspect? So, like I said, some of it could just be a bunch of he said, she said, stuff. It could be a cultural difference in the way that each of those game developers onboard development studios, right? Like, maybe Microsoft charges to develop, and PlayStation just like, here's the dev kit, here's the info, check out our self-documenting, development kits and stuff like that. So, like I said, it's hard to tell from being an outsider on how that stuff works, because it's not something that's just going to be widely displayed out there. Maybe Nick, you and I should learn to game develop, and we can make our own games and basically say which one we like and don't like. That's why I'm like, I don't understand it, because lot of these developers are making games for PC, and the architecture and the development schema should be the exact same thing. So you're making a PlayStation game and a PC game, but you're completely omitting the Xbox one, and why? Is it a parity thing? We've heard that before as well, that doing parity is not easy. Well, and I agree with them on that. I can imagine having to make sure that your game works great on the Xbox Series X, but also performs on the S. And the S is it's a Ford Fiesta versus a standard coupe car or something. It's like you gotta make sure you drop this engine in this coupe that works just as well in this Ford Fiesta. Freaking 3-cylinder engine got to work in both, and you got to make sure it performs hella good in this Series X and just meets the qualifications around the S. So I can believe them in some aspects. In some aspects, I'm just like, is this just more outsider hate type thing? Like, we don't want Microsoft. They're an outsider. They're not an Asian company type thing. I mean, that they're, as much as people say that about America, because America has this whole big buy American thing, I'm sure Asian countries have the same thing. Buy Chinese, buy Japanese, buy Korean, I'm sure everybody has that whole nationalism thing going on. And they're like, well, I imagine the Korean people are not like big on PlayStation and stuff like that, or anything that's a Japanese company, right? They're like, no, we don't, because there's a storied history between Korean and Japanese people. But like I said, it's I don't know. I kind of believe him, and then part of me is just like, it's just an excuse. But I'm with Vic. I don't think that the game will come out on Xbox. I think they're just saving face, because that post said a whole lot about nothing. They had this huge, long, multi-paragraph response that said absolutely nothing, except for, that's not our values. We don't down talk people, but that to me is a company saving face. So maybe the pushback may have given Microsoft a little bit of a bump in their eyes, or maybe Microsoft may be reaching out to them now going, hey, what kind of troubles are you having? Can we help you? Because that's the proper thing to do, right? If I was working at Xbox Studios and I saw that, I'd be like, who do I need to contact at that studio? And I would be reaching out to them going, is there some sweetheart deal with Sony because they're helping you out in the development phase, or you're really struggling with our platform? If you're struggling with our platform, let me know how I can help, because that would be the best thing for them to do, right? If you never know what's going to be a console seller. I mean, if that game sold one extra Xbox, then to me it was probably worth it. Maybe not to Microsoft, but if you gain one new console or 1% new consoles because of a game, then it was well worth it to invest your time and effort into that. Xbox has got to mend fences, because you can't expect goodwill when you killed off your only Asian studio that made a killer game too. It was a great game.
Yeah.
So,
and all the games Tango Gameworks made were not.
They did Evil Within, didn't they?
The Evil Within, Ghostwire Tokyo, and then Hi-Fi Rush, which Ghostwire Tokyo was an okay game. I beat it. I enjoyed it for the most part. I mean, it had a lot of its repetitiveness with it, but I liked the idea. And then the Evil Within was a really cool game, really cool horror game. And then Hi-Fi Rush was really, that came out critically acclaimed. A lot of,
but Microsoft, I mean, I just was like, Microsoft bought them, and they put out Hi-Fi Rush, right? After Microsoft had bought them. But I mean, so they seem to be a pretty solvent company before Microsoft bought them, and then once Microsoft did buy Bethesda, because they came with that whole thing, all that stuff, and Hi-Fi Rush came out, and you're like, it was kind of a sleeper hit, right? It was like, because they announced it, like, I can't remember which show it was, but Microsoft announced, and Hi-Fi Rush is available to play today, and everybody was like, what is this? And it turned out to be a pretty damn good game, and so yeah, lots of ill will from the Asian side of the world because of, I imagine that. I mean, you kill the entire game studio off that was, I don't understand it, that was doing pretty good games.
Yeah.
I don't think the Evil Within 2 got as good, as good as the first one, but I mean, that was what, 5-6 years before Microsoft even purchased them. So,
right. And so was Ghostwire Tokyo. It came out before they purchased them,
like the year before, but still, yeah. Yep.
So it's like, you know, yeah, I mean, we don't know the specifics of, why Tango GameWorks was closed. But I mean, yeah, it doesn't put a good shine on Microsoft to the Asian market and developers over in Asia when you're shutting down the only Asian studio you have, right? That doesn't give good, feelings to the market and developers over there that I mean, why would you I don't know. I think that's one of the things that us and the entire internet and gaming community was severely, like, super pissed about, was them closing down Tango. It was like, sure, like some of the other closures and stuff that you did, or whatever else you did at that time, that big blow up was okay. Like some of it makes sense, but Tango like did not make sense at all, and it was just like, I don't get why you would close them down, especially when you're trying. When Phil comes out and it says they're trying to get into the Asian market and trying to fix or rekindle that relationship, and then you turn around and close the only Asian studio you have. It's like, okay, well, you're not, right. And that's what we've been talking about for a while now, that Microsoft has really shot themselves in the foot more than once, right? They're heading in the wrong direction again, I feel like, and um it is what it is. Hopefully they'll
Yeah.
turn things around, but it doesn't seem to be that case right now, because they've
Yeah.
been awfully quiet. We've talked about this before, but Phil Spencer hasn't said shit for quite some time. I think since, well, I mean, Gamescom is coming up, so he's probably getting prepared for that. But um, ever since the summer of gaming, I don't think we've heard from Phil since then.
We've not heard much of value, I should add. He
Right.
retweets a bunch of stuff and makes posts about random crap, but nothing of importance, like the shakiness of Xbox. But I mean, he also outright lied to gamers about Game Pass price not increasing, and during the whole Call of Duty debacle crap, where there was like, it's not coming to Game Pass at any time, and if it does, prices are going to go up to compensate for it. He's like, no, nothing like that's going to happen. And then guess what? It's about to come out and prices went up. So, Phil Spencer just lied out his ass, just like, a lot of those higher up execs do when they're in the public eye. Um, so, if he was smart, they would have saved face and not raised prices until next year sometime. But, they're not.
Right.
Microsoft doesn't think ahead sometimes like this, because I cannot believe, I don't know how many times I've heard Phil Spencer even discussing making inroads into the Japanese or Asian gaming market, and then you do something as stupid as close down Tango GameWorks for what I cannot I cannot imagine. There's no reason that I think that they could make of closing down Tango GameWorks. I mean, the only thing I think that I remember hearing about them was that some of the original developers had left and taken some of the staff with them, and I'm like, so what?
Keep the name.
Well, or keep the studio, hire new people, and
Right.
keep making games out of Japan, and
Right.
then expand. Give them some, either they have some good ideas in the pipeline, or say, hey, why don't we pitch some ideas to these guys and you make them? I mean, I don't understand that. They are making good games, and it wasn't like they were making a good game every 10 years. They're pumping out stuff kind of regularly. Like I said, they had the two Evil Within games, and then the Hi-Fi Rush, and what was the other one? I can't.
Ghostwire.
Ghostwire, and that one was okay. I like that. Was an interesting concept for a game. I mean, I played it, and I'm like, this is really weird game, but I played a good chunk of it. So I don't know. Xbox is just not doing so great here lately in the public eye, in Asia, in anywhere. And Phil
Anywhere.
Spencer's silence is golden here, because it speaks volumes that Phil Spencer is quiet. The public face of Xbox being silent on all this turmoil within the gaming industry and ill will towards Xbox just says a lot to me. He's leading from the back instead of the front, which is a bad leader.
And they're leading Xbox. I mean, we talked about this before, but they are, I mean, we're kind of getting off on a different subject here, but I mean, I feel like they're leading Xbox into, like I've talked about before, Xbox is a as a service, right? More than it is as a platform. And I think that's the direction they're heading. Where Xbox is not a platform as far as like a console and it's got its base, but it's like Xbox is a service. Like, you want the Xbox service, right? And then the Xbox service is not one thing or another. It's just this over encompassing, like, streaming thing, right? This service type system. And that's where the direction I think they're headed with Xbox. And we've talked about that. You can check out one of our other videos where we talked about Xbox as a subscription, not just Game Pass, but Xbox in general, right? So yeah, I mean, they don't do themselves any favors. So again, S Game, they are saving face. The company's saving face by saying what they're saying, but the anonymous developer, I don't. I agree with him or her on, at least again, we don't know about the development side, but I agree with them on the other side that, the Asian market the Xbox is not big over there. So, and the ill will towards, closing out their only Asian studios and stuff like that, like it just doesn't do them any favors. So I could see why a lot of Asian markets or a lot of Asian developers may not want to develop for Xbox, right? Again, they're shooting themselves in the foot. They need to expand into that market. They really do. But they have never been able to. And no matter how they did a bit in the 360, that's why I said 360 is probably their biggest hurrah into that market. But after that, they killed that off and they haven't been able to regain it since. So anyway, you got anything else you want to add to this? All right. Well, let us know down in the comments below what you all think. What do you think about Phantom Blade Zero? Does that look interesting to you? I think it looks pretty cool. I don't know how it'll be, but I hope it's good. So we'll see. But what do you think about what their comments was, at least the initial comment, and then what they've said after the fact? And then what do you think about Microsoft and Xbox as a whole? We've been talking about this for a while. Let us know down in the comments what you all think. But other than that, thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, do us a favor, help us out. It's free. It helps us. And, we've said this before, but we just do this for fun. We like to talk about video games and, and subscribing. And the more subscribers we get, the more we can do and the more we can talk about things. And, we have normal jobs like everybody else. So we just gotta do it on our free time, right? Talking about this stuff. So, anything you can do to help us out, and hitting that subscribe button really helps us out, as well as hitting the bell notification to stay up to date with new videos that we do all the time. And we'll see you next time.